If you have researched conjuring spirits, demons, or angels, you have probably at least heard mentioned the Lesser Key of Solomon. The Lesser Key of Solomon is also known by the name Lemegeton, Clavicula Salomonis Regis, which translates as the Little Key of Solomon the King. Collated by a variety of authors, editors, and researchers, it dates back to the 17th century and contains a collection of arcane sigils and knowledge. The information in the full text contains in-depth information, including their appearance, about both angels and demons. The Lesser Key of Solomon contains 5 different books, which all have a different purpose and meaning. We will briefly explore the 5 books here. Watch until the end to hear a more historical background on the publishing of the Lesser Key of Solomon throughout the centuries, as well as a spoken preliminary invocation that is the first requirement of invoking and conjuring spirits, demons, and angels. The Lesser Key of Solomon is what's known as a grimoire or, more commonly, a spellbook. These are arcane texts containing various incantations, secrets, and pieces of ancient wisdom. As the Oxford University Press blog explains, the creation of grimoires is a very old tradition that has since become interwoven with the Abrahamic religions of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. There are numerous grimoires in the world, each with its own distinct history and lore. Notable examples are the Book of Shadows, which began Wicca, and the 6th and 7th Books of Moses, a founding text in Rastafari. Most grimoires are known as books of black magic, filled with mysticism about spellcasting and conjuring spirits. As the University of Sydney Library explains, while they're associated with witches, grimoires were more often found in the hands of wizards, sorcerers, and officials of the early church. They also have numerous surrounding superstitions, including the idea that all magical powers are nullified if any money changes hands. Other traditions involve the ideas that a manuscript must be handwritten in red ink and bound in black. Disturbingly, one even calls for a grimoire to be bound in human skin. Grisly details notwithstanding, grimoires were quite popular between the 17th and 20th centuries, which is most of the time that the Lesser Key of Solomon has existed. The Solomon referred to in the title is King Solomon, the ruler of the Kingdom of Israel referred to in the Christian Old Testament and the Hebrew Bible. 1 Kings 3 is all about Solomon, with his fabulous riches and divine wisdom. As About Islam explains, Solomon is also an important figure in Muslim tradition, considered a prophet alongside Muhammad, Jesus, and Moses. Solomon's importance in the occult, however, comes from legend. A Gnostic text, the Apocalypse of Adam, is probably the oldest reference to Solomon being able to command an army of demons to do his bidding. The Jewish Encyclopedia elaborates that this was described in more detail by a pseudepigraph, the Testament of Solomon. It describes how the king was given a magical seal ring by God himself, which allowed him to control a demon who was disrupting the construction of a temple. While there's scant archaeological evidence for Solomon or his ancient kingdom, an entire magical tradition sprang up in his name. Some surviving grimoires are said to have been written by Solomon himself. Ancient Origins mentions two, in particular, the Magical Treatise of Solomon, and the Key of Solomon. The latter, not the same as the Lesser Key of Solomon, is one of the world's most famous spellbooks, but scholars believe it to date back to the Italian Renaissance, around the 14th or 15th century. Book 1, the Ars Goetia. The first and most famous book of the Lesser Key of Solomon is the Ars Goetia, often known simply as the Goetia. Delirium's Realm explains how the name derives from the Greek word for witchcraft. The version of the Lesser Key of Solomon most people will encounter, sold by bookstores like Barnes & Noble, was produced in 1904 by Aleister Crowley and Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers and contains only this book. It concerns demons, referred to as principal spirits, and gives elaborate details on them. This version gained notoriety for including demonic sigils, researched by Crowley, that were missing from some other versions. The Ars Goetia gives full descriptions of how to invoke demons, including both ceremonies and spoken incantations. Lengthy orations are given, not only to conjure and command a demon but also to curse a demon who rebels or disobeys. Additionally, A lot of description is given of the demons themselves, each of whom is presented together with their magical seal. The descriptions don't only mention what kind of powers and abilities they have but also their physical appearances and even the way they speak. Pause equals 2 equals the 72 demons. A total of 72 demons are listed in the Ars Goetia, each with their own particular expertise. Nabirius, for instance, is said to be able to restore lost honors and make his summoner cunning in arts and sciences, particularly in rhetoric. Bua teaches philosophy and the virtues of herbs and plants. Harganti can transmute any metal into gold. The demons also have a hierarchy, with each holding a rank from king down to knight. Any would-be summoner is instructed on which metal to use when creating a seal to invoke the demon of their choosing. A king requires a gold seal, while a lower-ranked demon like a duke or earl requires a copper seal, and a knight can be invoked with a seal made of lead. Confusingly, some require a seal of mercury, with no explanation of how to make a seal from a liquid. Esoteric Archives notes that the list of demons originates in earlier works like the Discovery of Witchcraft and the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum. Previous books, however, contained fewer listed demons, with Pseudomonarchia Daemonium only mentioning 69. The list was seemingly expanded to 72 to act as an inversion of a list of the 72 angels mentioned in another occult text, that Semiphoras and Schemhamphorash, which is also attributed to Solomon. King Baal. Baal is the first of the demons mentioned in the Goetia, hailed as a ruler over 66 legions of infernal spirits. He's described as having a hoarse voice, with the ability to appear in many forms, appearing variously as a cat, a toad, and a man, and sometimes all three. Baal is said to have the power to turn you invisible but will only obey if you wear a talisman inscribed with his sigil. Other occult texts also mention Baal, including the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum, written by a doctor named Johannes Weyer as a rebuttal against the infamous witch hunter's handbook, the Malleus Maleficarum. Weyer specifies that Baal appears with all three heads at once. Elsewhere, Jacques Collin de Plancy's Dictionnaire Infernal speculates on whether he's the same as Baal, a Canaanite deity. As the online etymology dictionary notes, the name Baal is the same as the first part of the name Beelzebub and has been used generally to refer to false gods. Other demons in the Lesser Key of Solomon are similarly complex, both in appearance and history. The great king Asmode, for example, is seemingly the demon Asmodeus who was captured by King Solomon. He, too, is described as having three heads, a bull, a man, and a ram, as well as having a snake's tail, the feet of a goose, and the ability to breathe fire. Despite his fearsome appearance, Asmode is said to teach arithmetic, astronomy, and handicrafts. Book 2, the Ars Theurgia Goetia. The second book, Ars Theurgia Goetia, is a text about theurgy, the art of asking benevolent spirits and deities for help. The San Diego State University Library mentions that theurgy was once commonly practiced for lofty goals, like wealth and power, as well as for simpler ambitions like winning a court case or escaping arrest. A strong wind was considered a sign of a supernatural presence, something still used as a trope in horror movies and TV shows today. The Ars Theurgia Goetia is presented quite similarly to the Ars Goetia, describing 31 spirits, known as Chifa spirits, which can be invoked to help discover secrets and hidden things. These spirits also follow a hierarchy, with each spirit being a king or prince, commanding several servant dukes. Morally, the spirits in the Theurgia Goetia are more varied, being a mixture of good and evil. The text makes a point of noting which are evil and not to be trusted and which are kind and good-natured. Book 3, the Ars Paulina. Translating as the Art of Paul, the Ars Paulina deals with invoking angels and is attributed to the biblical apostle, Saint Paul. It has a distinctly different tone from the more famous Ars Goetia. Where the Goetia talks about commanding and instructing demons, the angels in the Paulina are asked and requested for aid. The angels also seemingly have many more followers, each commanding hundreds of dukes and some with over 1,000 servants. Their appearances aren't mentioned, but biblical angels are said to look no less outlandish than demons. Ezekiel 1 in the Old Testament describes angels as being like brilliant blue wheels full of eyes, with 4 wings and 4 faces, a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. One thing that the Ars Paulina notes is that there are 24 angels listed, 1 for each hour of the day and night, with the first hour coming at sunrise. According to the book, The Gods of the Egyptians, ancient Egypt followed a similar tradition. In the ancient Egyptian religion, there were also gods and goddesses for each hour. The Egyptians, however, only had 12 hourly deities, whose roles were repeated, both by day and by night. Book 4, the Ars Almadel. The Ars Almadel details the creation of a square wax tablet called an almadel, which is used to invoke angels. The origins of this text are lost to time, dating back to at least the 13th century. It was once translated from Arabic, but the original text may have been Persian or Sanskrit. The English version, apparently, is somewhat simplified compared to older copies of this text. The almadel itself is inscribed with protective sigils, set with 4 candles, and can effectively be used as a portable altar for summoning and consecrations. A synopsis from Abe Books includes the caution that a wizard may find themselves face to face with any number of angels or demons from other planes. Once summoned, spirits are said to appear suspended in the air above the almadel. The creation of an almadel involves quite a complex and involved ritual, requiring a seal made from gold or silver. Several things need to be taken into account for any hopeful summoner performing the ritual to create an almadel, including carefully inscribing the wax, facing in the correct cardinal direction, using appropriate colored wax, and constructing the almadel at the right time of day. The candles are significant, too. They need to be made from the same wax and be the same color as the almadel itself. Book 5, the Ars Notoria. The 5th book of the Lesser Key of Solomon is the Ars Notoria, which UCLA's Clark Library explains means the notary art of Solomon. It contains a series of spoken prayers, which is said to have granted King Solomon his deep understanding of science and his legendary wisdom. The orations in this book aim to invoke angels and focus on mental abilities like memory and eloquence. Among them are magic words in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. The Ars Notoria dates back to at least the 13th century. There are several different versions still in existence, many of them written in Latin, but the best versions also include mystical drawings known as noti. Some elements in this book, like Asalamath, Ase, Lemeth, Azabue, are very much what many people may expect magic words to sound like. On the other hand, other parts sound very similar to Catholic prayers, though this is likely influenced by the personal beliefs of past translations and edits. Preliminary invocation. Thee I invoke, the Bornless One. Thee that didst create the earth and the heavens. Thee that didst create the night and the day. Thee that didst create the darkness and the light. Thou art a Sorinophros, whom no man has seen at any time. Thou art Jabez. Thou art Japos. Thou hast distinguished between the just and the unjust. Thou didst make the female and the male. Thou didst produce the seed and the fruit. Thou didst form men to love one another, and to hate one another. I am Moshe thy prophet, unto whom thou didst commit thy mysteries, the ceremonies of Israel. Thou didst produce the moist, and the dry, and that which nourisheth all created life. Hear thou me, for I am the angel of Paphroa Sorinophros. This is thy true name, handed down to the prophets of Israel. Hear me, R. Theau, Ribet, Athalibazith. A. Blather, Abeo, Ebu, Phi, Thetaso, Ib, Theau. Hear me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air, and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. I invoke thee, the terrible and invisible God, who dwellest in the void place of the Spirit, Aragogorabrau, Sathu, Medorio, Phalathau, Du, Ape, the Bornless One, hear me. Hear me, Rubriau, Mariodum, Baldnabi, Asaloni, Aphniau, I, Thotheth, Abrazar, Iou, Obscure, Mighty and Bornless One. Hear me. I invoke thee, Ma, Bario, Joel, Kotha, Atharabalo, Abraeth, hear me. Hear me, Aeth, Abraeth, Basam, Asak, Sabi, Eau. This is the Lord of the gods. This is the Lord of the universe. This is he whom the winds fear. This is he, who having made voice by his commandment, is Lord of all things, King, ruler and helper. Hear me. Hear me. Eo, Per, Iu, Per, Yaut, Io, Ioo, Abrazar, Sabrium, Du, Uu, Adonai, Ed, Edu, Angelos, Tuntheon, Anialai, Gaia, Ape, Diathana, Thorin. I am he, the bornless spirit, having sight in the feet, strong, and the immortal fire. I am he, the truth. I am he, who hate that evil should be wrought in the world. I am he, that lighteneth and thundereth. I am he, from whom is the shower of the life of earth. I am he, whose mouth ever flameth. I am he, the begetter and manifester unto the light. I am he. The grace of the world, the heart girt with a serpent, is my name. Come thou forth, and follow me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament, and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land, or in the water, of whirling air or of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God, may be obedient unto me. Eau. Sabao. Such are the words.